Almost every company has an increasing amount of data that they're collecting about customers, about prospects, about operations. And invariably, they're looking to make predictions based on the data that they have collected. Regression is a form or a methodology of prediction. In its simplest form, you can predict a value based on one or more other values, assuming that there exists some relationship to actually predict. And what we mean by that is, if we have 3 or 4 variables that we're trying to associate with, let's say, income, we're assuming that there's going to be some sort of relationship between those 3 or 4 variables and income. And therefore, if that exists, then we can predict what income is going to be based on the 3 or 4 variables that we have. So regression can be a form of machine learning, specifically supervised learning, because we use the data that we have to make assessments and prediction about new data. And there are specific techniques that can be used, such as creating a training set, comparing it to a test set and a validation set, that will allow us to have the regression models learn and change over time. There are 3 different types of regression that we're going to focus on in these modules. There's simple regression, which predicts one variable from another variable, multiple regression, which predicts one variable from one or more variables, and a time series, which is a special form of regression in which time plays a role, such as with stock prices or revenue forecasts. Now, mind you, there are other forms of regression, such as logistic regression and Poisson regression, but those are for a different type of course. So in summary, what is a regression? It's a simple equation, which we'll show later, and it will be clearly evident where its roots are. It's very effective in business decision making. So what are some of the questions that regression formulas answer? First, we might want to predict how much revenue will be obtained 12 months from now based on historical data. We might want to determine the level of cholesterol in the blood from a given set of treatments, such as dose of medication, amount of exercise, etc. We can predict how effective marketing campaigns will be in customer acquisition. We can also calculate the expected number of complaints to a call center given a number of variables such as day of the year, amount of sales for a given day, and day of week. We can further predict the lifetime value of a customer given a certain demographic trait along with amount of first purchase and growth. So there really is no limit to what you can do in terms of the variables used to predict another variable. Regression is an extremely powerful tool which enables us to look at data in a different way. So even though regression is simple, it is very powerful, and we'll need to identify a couple of key terms. First, we have what's known as a predictor variable, and it's a variable that's used to predict some outcome. And we usually denote these as X, so we may have multiple variables that are going to act as predictors. These variables are also known as independent variables or explanatory variables. Second, we have what's known as a response variable. This is a variable that is the prediction from the predictor variables, and we denote this as Y. These variables are also known as dependent variables or target variables. Simple regression is a regression formula with only one single independent variable and a single response variable, while multiple regression is a regression formula with more than one independent variable and a single response variable. So we'll also have ways of determining whether one regression is better than another, which variables are significant in predicting another, and how well a regression formula does in predicting an outcome.